I always believed that anniversaries were sacred. 10 years with the same woman, my high school sweetheart, the one I thought I'd grow old with. Her name was Jessica, and she had this perfect smile that could melt away the worst days. Or maybe I just convinced myself of that because the woman I walked in on that night was not the woman I married. It all started with the kind of plan you see in movies. I wanted to surprise her, nothing too over the top, just heartfelt. A last-minute decision, really. I told her I had to work late, played it cool. Meanwhile, I booked a suite at the Baymont downtown, had the room filled with candles, champagne, and a photo album I made of our favorite memories. Then I picked up her favorite roses, stopped by the bakery that made our wedding cake, and headed home early to grab her. But life? Life doesn't give a damn about your plans. The front door was unlocked, which was strange. Jessica was always paranoid about locking up. I walked in, and the first thing I noticed was her heels, those black ones with the red soles, thrown by the staircase. The living room was dark, silent, but something felt off. That gut punch kind of silence. The kind that hums before disaster. Then I heard it. A low moan. A man's voice. Laughter. I froze. My hands clenched around the bouquet until the stems snapped and petals dropped to the floor. I moved like a machine, my body knowing before my brain could catch up. I climbed the stairs one at a time, every creak screaming betrayal. The bedroom door was cracked open, just enough. What I saw? Jessica, my wife, was straddling some half-naked dude like she was possessed. The same bed we made our son Ethan in. The same sheets we bought together last month. She was riding him like a goddamn rodeo champion, moaning his name like he wrote the damn dictionary. Travis, she panted. Don't stop. Travis. Travis? Her coworker from the accounting firm. Married. Father of 2. My mind didn't just break. It imploded. I must have made a sound because Jessica's head snapped toward the door. And for a split second, just one godforsaken second, she didn't look ashamed. No. That woman looked annoyed. What the hell are you doing home? She hissed, scrambling off him. I didn't answer. Couldn't. My throat felt like it was closing, heart hammering like it wanted out of my chest. Travis sat up, blanket over his junk, looking like a deer about to be hunted. Dude, I thought you were out, he stammered. Jessica, not even covering herself fully, stood in front of him like a goddamn guard dog. What you sneaking now? Are you spying on me? Spying? I came to surprise you for our anniversary, I said slowly, each word hurting worse than the last. Her expression barely flickered. Yeah, well, maybe you should have called first. Called first. In that moment, I swear I stopped being human. I dropped the roses. The box of cake fell to the floor, shattering. Red velvet smeared across the tile like blood. And I just stood there, watching her, trying to figure out how this woman who used to fall asleep in my arms now looked at me like I was the inconvenience. No apology? No explanation? I asked, my voice cracking. She rolled her eyes. Look, it's not what you think. Then what the hell is it, Jessica? Enlighten me. She crossed her arms like I was the one who'd just messed up. You've been distant. Cold. Working all the time. I needed something. So you needed his, what? His comfort. I snapped, pointing at Travis, who was now scrambling to gather his clothes like a cockroach fleeing the light. Jessica shrugged. Better than sleeping next to a zombie. She said it just like that. Cold. Dry. Like we hadn't built a damn life together. Like I didn't bury my father last year and nearly work myself to death just to keep our mortgage paid. I turned to Travis. Get out. He didn't hesitate. Barely got his shoes before bolting down the stairs. Jessica didn't even flinch. She just stood there, arms crossed, still naked. No shame. No guilt. Just ice. You gonna cry now? She said mockingly. Make a scene? What, you want a medal for catching me? That's when I realized something snapped inside me. Not in a violent way, no. I didn't yell. I didn't throw anything. I just looked at her like she was a stranger who'd broken into my life and shattered everything. And maybe that's all she ever was. A stranger in disguise. And me? I was just the fool who handed her the mask. I didn't sleep that night. Not a damn minute. After Travis ran out half-dressed and Jessica threw on a robe like this was some minor inconvenience, I went downstairs in silence. The photo album I made for her, still sitting in the passenger seat of my truck, never even made it inside. I left it there to rot, just like every sweet thought I'd ever had about her. She didn't follow me. Didn't cry. Didn't try to explain. Nothing. I sat in the dark living room for hours, just staring. The TV was off. The only sound in the house was the ticking of that stupid clock she insisted on buying for the hallway. It ticked like a metronome, counting down to the moment I completely lost faith in everything. At 3 a.m. she finally came downstairs. hair wet, skin glowing like she just walked out of a damn spa. She stood there at the bottom of the staircase, sipping wine like we were having a regular night. "I guess we should talk," she said. I laughed short, bitter, hollow. "Yeah, let's talk. You first." She sat across from me, cool as ice. "Look, it wasn't supposed to happen this way." "This way?" I echoed. "You mean you planned on cheating, just not getting caught?" She sighed like I was being dramatic. "I didn't plan anything, okay? It just happened." One thing led to another. I shook my head slowly, trying to wrap my brain around her audacity. "It just happened? Jessica, this wasn't some one-time screw-up. You've been seeing him for how long?" Silence. "How long, Jess?" 6 months, she muttered. That was the final nail in the coffin. Half a year. Half a goddamn year she'd been lying to my face, letting me kiss her, hold her, sleep next to her, all while giving herself to another man. "What about our son?" I asked, nearly whispering. "What about Ethan?" She shrugged. "He doesn't know. He doesn't need to." I stood up, jaw tight. "You don't even care, do you?" She blinked at me, then rolled her eyes. "Don't turn this into some moral crusade. You've barely touched me in months. You come home, grumble about work, and pass out in front of the TV. You think I don't have needs?" I stared at her like she had grown horns. "So because life got hard, your solution was to open your legs to the nearest available idiot? That's how marriage works now." She slammed her glass down, wine splashing onto the table. "You think I wanted this? You think I wanted to feel like some ghost in my own house?" "You were a ghost," I snapped. "Because the woman I married, she's dead." She flinched just a flicker. I'd hit something, finally. "I gave you everything, Jess. My time, my energy, my trust. You want to talk about ghosts? Try being the guy who killed himself for his family only to find out his wife was playing house with another man." Her voice rose. "Don't act like you're some saint. You were never present. Always work, always stress, always too tired. You gave me scraps and expected me to be grateful. And you gave me lies. For 6 months. We stood there, both breathing hard, glaring like enemies in a war we didn't sign up for. Then she dropped the real bomb. "I love him." The world froze. Not "I'm sorry." Not "it was a mistake." She loved him. My mouth opened but no sound came out. I felt my chest cave in like my ribs were collapsing inward. She kept going, eyes locked on mine. "He makes me feel alive. He listens. He doesn't treat me like a burden." I took a step back, disgusted. "So what now? You want a divorce?" "I don't know," she said. "Do you?" That's when I realized I wasn't crying. I hadn't shed a tear. Not because I wasn't hurting, no, I was drowning, but because something inside me had turned to stone. "I'll sleep on the couch," I said. "But tomorrow we're talking lawyers." She didn't protest. Just nodded and walked away like we'd agreed on what to order for dinner. I sat back down in that godforsaken silence and stared at the wine stain on the table. 10 years. Gone. Erased. Replaced with 6 months of betrayal and a heartless confession. I didn't know what hurt more, losing her or realizing she was never really mine to begin with. All I knew was that the man who walked into the house yesterday eager to surprise his wife didn't exist anymore. He died the second her eyes looked through him like he was nothing. And what rose in his place? A man who was about to burn it all down. The next morning was too bright. Too normal. Birds chirping outside like they hadn't witnessed the massacre of my marriage the night before. Sunlight creeping through the blinds like it had no idea it was landing on a man who just had his heart shattered into dust. Jessica made coffee. She actually brewed a pot like she hadn't just confessed to loving another man. I could hear her humming something soft in the kitchen while our son, Ethan, sat at the table scrolling through his tablet like every other morning. The world kept spinning. That pissed me off more than anything. I sat on the edge of the couch, fully dressed but still motionless. The clothes I wore felt like a costume now. The husband costume. The dad costume. Pretending like I wasn't boiling inside. Pretending I could just blend back into this twisted little circus. Jessica came over, holding out a mug of coffee like we were old pals catching up. "I figured you could use this." I stared at it like she was handing me poison. Maybe she was. "You sleep good?" I asked, eyes not leaving hers. She blinked, pulling the mug back toward her chest. I managed. I stood. That Travis didn't sleep a wink though. Probably too busy, worried I'd show up with a bat and knock his teeth down his throat. Her mouth twitched into a smirk she quickly buried behind the mug. That's when I realized something dangerous. She wasn't ashamed. She was relieved. The lie was out and now she didn't have to pretend. That made her even more dangerous. I walked into the kitchen, grabbed my keys, and snatched the folder I had thrown on the counter last night. Inside it were the anniversary dinner reservations, the printed photos for the scrapbook, and a receipt for the spa weekend I'd been saving up for, one I'll never get my money back for now. Jessica followed behind, arms crossed. Where are you going? To remember what fresh air feels like. And maybe to look up a good divorce attorney. She scoffed. You don't have to be dramatic. That made me spin around so fast she actually flinched. Dramatic? You think this is dramatic? You slept with another man in our bed on our anniversary. You ripped apart 10 years of history like it was wrapping paper on a gift you didn't even want. You act like you were perfect, she shot back. You've been emotionally unavailable for years, Eric. This marriage has been a corpse for a long time. I nodded slowly. So you brought in a new undertaker. Got it. She glared, lips curled into that smug little sneer I'd somehow ignored for years. I'm not the villain here. You sure about that? I asked, stepping closer. Because everything about you right now, your tone, your posture, your cold-blooded lies, it all screams villain. She didn't say anything. Just turned away and walked back to the sink. I left before I did something I couldn't take back. The house felt like a prison now, every photo frame a cruel joke, every corner filled with ghosts of memories she'd poisoned. I drove with no destination in mind. Just kept going. Eventually, I ended up parked outside my best friend Mark's house. He opened the door, and before I could even get a word out, he just said, "You look like hell." Feels worse, I muttered. He let me in without another question. I dropped onto his couch and told him everything. From the moment I stepped through that bedroom door to her ice-cold confession about loving someone else. Mark didn't interrupt once. Just sat there, taking it in, jaw tightening with every new piece of betrayal I laid out. You want me to beat his ass? He finally asked, dead serious. A laugh barked out of me before I could stop it. It felt good. Brief, but good. Nah, not yet. But the thought's on the list. He shook his head. Jesus, man? You sure you're not gonna try to fix it? I looked at him like he'd lost his damn mind. Fix what? She's gone. Checked out. She didn't even cry, Mark. She looked me in the face and told me she loves him. He nodded. That's cold. No, that's scorched earth. I stayed at Mark's that night. Couldn't stomach going back home yet. Jessica sent one text. Ethan's asking where you are. What should I tell him? I didn't answer. She could come up with something. She was good at that. Lying came naturally to her. Instead, I stared up at the ceiling in the guest room, trying to figure out where I'd gone wrong. Was it me? Was it the long hours at work? The missed date nights? Or had she always been this person and I just refused to see it? The truth stung more than anything else. I loved a woman who was never capable of loving me back the same way. And now the game had changed. This wasn't about saving the marriage anymore. This was about surviving the wreckage. And maybe, just maybe, dragging her lies out into the daylight where they belonged. The next few days blurred together. I moved into a cheap extended-stay hotel near the freeway, stale air, flickering lights, and a bed that squeaked if I breathed too hard. But it beat the hell out of sharing a roof with the woman who gutted my heart and acted like she'd just trimmed the fat. I didn't see Ethan. Not because I didn't want to, I missed my boy like hell, but because I didn't trust myself around Jessica. One wrong look from her and I might have said something I couldn't walk back. Or worse, something Ethan couldn't unhear. She texted updates. Photos of Ethan at the park. A drawing he made that said, "I love you, Daddy," with a stick figure family, me, him, and her. My hands shook when I saw that. Even now, in his little heart, he still believed we were whole. That drawing nearly undid me. I sat with it for a long time. Then I started writing back to him. Not to Jessica. To him. I told him I missed him every second. That I'd always be there for him, no matter what happened between his mom and me. I didn't know how much she'd let him see, but I had to believe my words would find him somehow. By the fourth day, I got a call from my sister, Michelle. She had that "I know something you don't" tone from the second I answered. You sitting down? She asked. Not even breathing properly. Go ahead. Jessica's been seeing him for months, Eric. My friend Tessa works at the same company. She's seen them together. Lunch breaks. Conference trips. They weren't exactly subtle. My chest tightened. You're telling me half the office probably knew? Looks like it. So not only was I cheated on, I was the last dumbass to find out. The joke in the room who didn't get the punchline. Thanks, I muttered. There's more. I rubbed my eyes. Of course there is. Travis, he's not divorced. Silence. I sat up straight. What? Yeah. Wife's name is Angela. 2 kids. They're still married. Tessa confirmed it. The room started spinning. I held onto the edge of the bed like gravity was slipping away. So she's not his only one. Nope. She's just the side project. I didn't remember hanging up, but the phone was suddenly on the floor. I felt this surge, this flood of rage and betrayal that went deeper than before. Jessica wasn't just a liar. She was a fool. A pawn in someone else's game. She'd torched our family for a man who wouldn't even burn a match for her. I drove straight to the house. I didn't call. I didn't text. I just showed up and walked in like it was still mine, because it was. Jessica was in the kitchen, phone in one hand, sipping wine in the other. It was noon. She blinked when she saw me, then scowled. You can't just barge in here like that. I still pay the mortgage. I'll barge in whenever the hell I want. She rolled her eyes, but something in my voice made her set the wine down. What do you want? I stepped forward, dropped a printed photo on the counter. Travis. With a woman. Holding hands. 2 kids in the background. Her face went pale. His wife's name is Angela, I said. Your Prince Charming has his own little castle somewhere. Did he forget to mention that between your hotel meetups? Jessica looked at the photo, then looked at me. She didn't cry. She didn't deny it. She just sneered. So what? You think you get to rub this in my face? I laughed. Loud, bitter, ugly? No, sweetheart. I think he did that already. You're not special. You were a distraction. And now you've blown up your whole life over a guy who won't even claim you. She looked like she wanted to hit me. You think you're so righteous? You ignored me for years. Always working. Always tired. Never touched me. I was starving for attention. Then leave. That's what adults do. They talk. They leave. They don't crawl into someone else's bed and pretend it's love. She didn't answer. You cheated and got played. You're not just a liar. You're an idiot too. She lunged at me, shoving me in the chest. Get out. I will, I said, stepping back. Just wanted you to see the truth before the lawyers get involved. Lawyers, she repeated. Oh yeah. I'm done playing nice. That night I filed for divorce. I also contacted Angela. It took some digging, but I found her. Sent her the photos. The texts. Everything. She didn't reply at first, but I saw that she read it. That was enough. Let that bomb detonate wherever it needed to. Jessica blew up our marriage for a fantasy. Now she gets to live in the ruins. A week after I filed for divorce, Jessica showed up at my hotel room door, completely unannounced, face stained with smudged makeup, eyes red, hair tied up like she hadn't showered in days. I barely cracked the door open. What? I asked flatly. She didn't even say hello. You told her, didn't you? I didn't need clarification. I knew who she meant. Angela deserved to know, I said. Just like I deserved to know. Jessica scoffed and wiped her nose with her sleeve. You just love playing the victim, don't you? I blinked. I walked in on you screwing another man on our anniversary. She threw her arms up. We were done long before that. Then why didn't you say anything? Why not leave me instead of dragging Ethan and me through your trash fire? Her eyes narrowed. Because you were safe. Because you were boring and dependable and never questioned anything. You were predictable. That stung harder than I expected. Not the insult itself, but the cold, unapologetic way she said it. Like she'd just confessed to borrowing my car without permission. You really are something else, I said, shaking my head. She stepped closer, trying to push the door wider. You really want to ruin Ethan's life over this? You want him bouncing between houses, getting caught in our mess? Don't put him in the middle, I snapped. You made this mess. Not me. I made a mistake. No, I cut in. A mistake is forgetting to buy milk. You made decisions. You made them repeatedly. You lied. You gaslit me. You let me pour my soul into building a life for us while you were out playing adult house with your boss. Jessica's lips trembled, but no tears came. She was drained, or maybe the tears were for someone else. Just let me in, she whispered. Let's talk this through. Talk. I laughed bitterly. Talk like we did the last few years when you brushed off everything I said? When you smiled in my face and lied through your teeth. She was quiet now, looking at the ground like a child caught stealing. I almost pitied her, almost. I loved you once, I said. God, I really did. I would have done anything for you. But you killed that man. You crushed him under your games. I didn't mean it. I don't care what you meant anymore. I closed the door on her mid-sentence. I stood there for a few minutes, forehead against the wood, listening to her breathing on the other side. Then I heard her footsteps fading away. The silence that followed felt more peaceful than anything I'd felt in months. Later that night, I met with my attorney. We drafted everything: custody schedule, asset division, child support. My lawyer was blunt. She'll fight you. She'll say anything to keep the house or paint you as the villain. You ready for that? I nodded. Let her try. I've got receipts. He raised an eyebrow. And how's your son handling all this? That question hit me in the gut. I don't know, I admitted. She's keeping him from me. Says he needs stability. She's using him, he said. Like they always do. It was blunt, but true. The next weekend was my scheduled visit. When I showed up to pick Ethan up, Jessica was standing on the porch, arms crossed, smug expression back on her face like the hotel breakdown never happened. "You're late," she said. "It's 5 minutes," I replied. "I don't think this weekend is a good idea." "He's been upset. Acting out." I looked past her toward the door. "Ethan. Buddy, you ready?" She didn't move. "He doesn't want to go. Let him tell me that." She hesitated, then opened the door a crack. "Ethan, come here." He shuffled out slowly, clutching a stuffed dinosaur. His eyes lit up when he saw me and he ran forward. "Dad." I knelt down and hugged him tight. His little arms wrapped around my neck like he was afraid I'd vanish. "Hey, buddy. I missed you." "Me too," he whispered. Jessica cleared her throat. "Ethan, do you want to go or do you want to stay home with Mommy?" He looked back and forth between us, confused like she'd asked him whether he wanted ice cream or toys. "Both." Jessica looked at me, smug again. "See? He's not sure. Maybe next weekend." I stood up slowly. "I'm taking him. If you want to stop me, get a court order." She opened her mouth, but I was already walking to the car with Ethan in my arms. He giggled as I strapped him in, oblivious to the storm brewing just behind us. That weekend, we played at the park, ate junk food, built pillow forts in the hotel room. I didn't ask him about Jessica or Travis. I didn't want to pull him into the mess. I just let him be a kid. But at night, after he fell asleep, I stared at the ceiling and let the anger settle in my bones. Jessica wasn't just a cheater. She was a manipulator. A liar. A scoundrel in a sundress. And I was done playing nice. The next Monday morning, I walked into the courthouse feeling more steel in my spine than I had in months. I wasn't there to beg. I wasn't there to compromise. I was there to make sure Jessica couldn't use my son as a pawn in her little power game. She had already betrayed me in the worst way imaginable. She wasn't going to steal the only part of my life that still made sense. The custody hearing wasn't dramatic at first. The courtroom was cold, stale, like every emotion had been sucked out of it years ago. Jessica sat across the aisle from me, looking like she was auditioning for a pity party, light makeup, pale blouse, fake sadness resting on her face like a mask. Her lawyer, some smug suit named Mr. Caldwell, leaned in and whispered things to her, probably coaching her on how to look more motherly and less like the villain she was. My lawyer, Teresa, didn't bother whispering. She slid a thick folder of evidence across the table to the judge. "Messages," she said calmly. "Photos. Witness statements. All of it relevant." Jessica's eyes twitched when the judge flipped open the folder. I didn't even have to look to know what was in there. Screenshots of her sexting Travis while I was at work, pictures of them in public places together during hours she told me she was at the salon or picking up Ethan. A neighbor's statement about a strange man showing up every Thursday when I was on the night shift. And the cherry on top, a hidden camera video I had installed after I caught them, showing her sneaking Travis into our home again even after the confrontation. She had tried to paint me as unstable in her affidavit. Claimed I had anger issues. Said I was cold and emotionally distant. What she didn't know was I had been recording every call and keeping every message since the day I caught her. Every time she tried to guilt-trip me. Every time she said I was ruining Ethan's life while still lying to him about why Daddy wasn't home anymore. When it was her turn to speak, she turned on the waterworks like she'd flipped a switch. "Your Honor," she began, voice trembling. "I know I made mistakes. But I'm his mother. I was just lost. I didn't mean to hurt anyone." "Didn't mean to hurt anyone?" I said under my breath. Teresa nudged me to stay quiet. Jessica dabbed her eyes with a tissue. "Ethan needs me. I'm the one who's been with him every day. I feed him, bathe him, I'm there when he wakes up scared in the night. His father," she looked over at me with that snake-like glare, "has barely spent time with him since the separation. I don't think that's in Ethan's best interest." That's when Teresa stood up, her voice calm but sharp. "Your Honor, if I may, we have text messages from Ms. Parker sent to our client stating he would never see his son again if he proceeded with divorce. We have recordings where she calls their child a tool to keep him from moving on. And we have confirmation from a child psychologist that Ms. Parker discouraged Ethan from visiting his father." The judge raised an eyebrow. Jessica's face flushed and her lawyer leaned in fast, whispering now like the flames were catching up to them. By the end of that day, I was granted joint custody with explicit warning that any interference on Jessica's part would be grounds for a full review. That look on her face when the gavel came down? It wasn't sadness. It was fury. It was a spoiled brat finally told no. Outside the courtroom, she tried to catch me before I left. "You're not going to win, James," she hissed, low enough that no one else heard. "You think this is over?" I leaned in just enough so she'd feel the weight of every word. "It is over. You just haven't figured it out yet. I walked away, ignoring the screech of her heels on the tile as she spun around and stormed off. Weeks passed. Life was still messy, but there was a rhythm to it now. I picked Ethan up every Friday evening and dropped him off Sunday night. We carved pumpkins together for Halloween, chased each other through leaf piles, watched cartoons with greasy pizza on our laps. I was rebuilding. Not just for him. For me. Then, out of nowhere, Travis showed up at my apartment. He knocked like a man on a mission. I opened the door and found him standing there with a black eye and a stitched-up lip. His shirt was wrinkled, hair greasy. "Can we talk?" he said, his voice more desperate than I expected. I didn't say anything. Just stared. "She used me too," he said. "Jessica. She's not who I thought." "You don't say." "I left my wife for her," he continued. "Gave up everything. My kids won't speak to me. She told me we'd build a life together. Now she won't even answer my calls. I let the silence hang between us, heavy and brutal. She told me she was pregnant," he added, voice cracking. "Said it was mine." I blinked. My stomach tightened. "She's pregnant." He nodded, eyes bloodshot. "Now she's saying it might not be mine. That she's not sure. You and we need to talk, man." I took a slow breath, staring past him, not even sure what world I was standing in anymore. This woman, she was chaos wrapped in lipstick. And it wasn't over. Not yet. I didn't invite Travis in. I just stood there in the doorway, letting his words settle in the space between us like dust after an explosion. Pregnant. Not sure who the father was. And now this idiot was looking at me like we were brothers in arms, like we had something in common other than being two clowns she had played. "Whatever it is you want from me, I'm not interested," I said flatly. "You made your choices. I made mine." "Come on, man," he pleaded. "You think I don't feel like a fool? She told me you were abusive. Cold. That you never touched her. That you didn't care. And I bought all of it. I left everything for her. That's your problem. Not mine." I shut the door before he could say another word. I locked it, stood there for a few seconds, breathing through the rage crawling up my throat. Jessica, she wasn't just broken. She was poison, and every man she touched ended up choking on the same lies. That night I poured myself a drink, something I hadn't done in a while, and sat on the couch trying to figure out if it was worth responding to her texts. She had been quiet for a few days since the court ruling, probably licking her wounds and planning her next move. But now this? Another possible pregnancy, another man sucked into her tornado of drama? I had to know. Not for her. Not for Travis. For Ethan. I sent her a single message. "Is it true? Are you pregnant?" She replied almost instantly. "So you care now? Does it bother you? That it might not be his? Might not be yours either. Who knows anymore, right?" I clenched my jaw so hard I thought I might crack a molar. "Get a paternity test. Do it before you start dragging another kid into this disaster you created." Her response came slower this time. "Don't tell me what to do. You lost the right to have a say the day you walked out on your family like a coward." I stared at the screen, blood boiling. This woman had lied, cheated, disrespected our vows, destroyed our family, and somehow she still painted herself as the victim. Like I was the one who shattered everything. I didn't answer. I tossed the phone on the couch and walked out to the balcony, letting the cold air hit my face. It helped. A little. 2 weeks passed. No word from her. Ethan was spending his weekends with me, happy, laughing, like the tension that used to hang in the house was finally gone. We started drawing together at the dining table. He loved superheroes, so we created one together, Captain Truth. A hero who always knew when someone was lying. He said he wanted to be like him when he grew up. I just nodded, swallowing the weight behind those words. Then, one Saturday evening, Ethan asked the question I'd been dreading. "Dad, why don't you love Mommy anymore?" I froze. The cartoon on the screen behind us blurred into background noise. I looked down at him, his big blue eyes so innocent, so undeserving of the storm he'd been thrown into. "I do love her," I said slowly. "Just not the same way anymore. Sometimes people change. And they stop being kind to each other. When that happens, it's better to live apart than to keep hurting each other." He looked confused but didn't press further. Just nodded and went back to coloring Captain Truth's cape. Later that night, after I put him to bed, I checked my phone again. Still nothing from Jessica. Then came the knock. It was almost midnight. I opened the door and there she was. Standing in the hallway in a short coat, lips painted like blood, eyes sharp as ever. "You've been ignoring me," she said, voice low. "Get to the point." "I'm keeping the baby," she said. "And I'm telling people it's yours." I laughed once, sharp, humorless. "You really think I'm just gonna let you throw my name on some other guy's kid? What's the angle this time? Sympathy? Another court case?" No, she said, stepping closer, her perfume clinging to the air like a curse. But people believe what I tell them. And if I say you came back for one last night, that you couldn't resist, who's gonna question it? I felt the world tilt for a second. My fists clenched at my sides. You think I'm scared of your lies? I've got enough proof on you to bury your credibility for good. I'm done letting you screw with my life. Her lips curled into that fake little smile I'd grown to hate. Maybe. But what about Ethan? You want him to grow up hearing that his father abandoned his baby sibling? That he was too selfish to care? And there it was. Her favorite weapon. The child. You come near me again without a damn lawyer and I'll have you hit with a restraining order so fast your fake lashes will fall off. I shut the door in her face and slid the bolt. I stood there in the dark, heart pounding. This wasn't over. Not even close. A week passed. Then another. Silence from Jessica, but I wasn't stupid enough to think that meant peace. No, silence from her was always the calm before the storm. She thrived on chaos, she just needed time to sharpen her knives again. I started documenting everything. Every text, every voicemail, every twisted little threat or backhanded comment she dropped during exchanges with Ethan. I wasn't taking chances. If she wanted a war, I'd give her one, but this time I'd be the one holding the blueprint. I hired a new lawyer. Someone who had a reputation for being ruthless with high-conflict custody battles. I made sure my finances were airtight. I kept my place spotless and had witnesses ready to vouch for how well I cared for Ethan. I played it smart. She was too unstable to fake being sane for long. Then came the bombshell. I got a call from her sister, Lauren. We hadn't spoken much during the marriage. Jessica kept her distance from her family, but Lauren sounded shaken. Said she thought I should know Jessica had been telling everyone I forced myself on her that night before I moved out. That I'd trapped her with another kid on purpose. I sat in silence, my skin turning cold. That's not true, I said, my voice hard. I know, Lauren replied. I know her. I've seen her ruin people before. I couldn't stay quiet anymore. She needs help and you need to protect yourself. I thanked her and hung up. I didn't panic. I forwarded the call log to my attorney and filed a harassment claim preemptively, just in case. I also booked a paternity test with the court and demanded it be handled with witnesses and medical verification. I wasn't letting her build another lie without it blowing up in her face. The day the results came in, I felt something close to peace for the first time in months. Not mine. I wasn't the father. I almost laughed. Almost. But the weight that lifted from my shoulders was real. I sent her a simple message, not mine. We're done here. She didn't respond. But a few days later, she showed up again. Drunk. Slurring at my doorstep at 11:30 at night while Ethan was asleep inside. You think you're better than me? She hissed, mascara streaked down her cheeks. You think you're some kind of hero now? No, I said. I just stopped being your fool. She stumbled closer, trying to push past me. He still asks for me, you know? He still loves me. I never said he didn't. But he'll learn. He'll see it for himself one day. That hit her. She stood there swaying, her expression cracking for the first time in a long time. And for a brief moment, the monster behind the beauty showed its face. You're nothing without me, she whispered. No, I said. You're nothing without someone to use. I called the cops. I didn't even hesitate. She was gone before they arrived, but I made sure the report was filed. A paper trail. She wouldn't get another chance. Months passed. The court gave me full custody after she missed 2 hearings and failed to show a stable home. Her new relationship with Travis went up in flames. He moved out of state. Last I heard, she was staying with some guy who didn't know half her story. Ethan was doing better. Therapy helped. So did consistency. We built new routines, simple ones, bedtime stories, Friday night pizza, walks in the park. He didn't ask about her much anymore. Sometimes I'd catch him looking sad when he saw a kid with their mom, but he never said it out loud. One night, I asked him, do you ever wish things were different? He looked up from his drawing and thought for a second. I wish you weren't sad sometimes, he said. That one cracked me wide open. I held him tighter than I ever had. I'm not sad anymore, buddy. Not really. I've got you. That's enough. And it was. Looking back now, I wish I'd seen the signs earlier. I wish I'd stopped making excuses for a woman who fed on attention like oxygen. But you can't rewrite the past. You can only walk through the fire and come out smarter. I learned a lot from that hell. I learned that love without respect is just emotional blackmail dressed up as romance. I learned that lies, no matter how pretty, always rot from the inside. And I learned that sometimes walking away isn't weakness, it's the first step toward strength. So, to any man out there who finds himself where I was, believe the signs. Trust your gut. Save the version of yourself that still remembers what peace feels like. And when she tries to drag you back into her mess with crocodile tears and twisted words, remember, some fires don't need to be fought. Some just need to be left to burn themselves out. And you? You walk away. Head high. Heart whole.